Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. This is going to be interesting today because this is going to be the show about Deadpool set. Now, with that being said, while this is going on, I'm also simultaneously looking at eBay and possibly have another interview to do for the Quarry. So you might be wondering, hey man, why does it seem like it abruptly paused? Well, that's primarily because I had to pause. That's also why I'm not doing video. So this is a shout out to Austin Auth, who asked me on Twitter, yo homie, when you doing a review of Deadpool? And the answer is today. Also, a big shout out to Ralph, who won the code for the Twitter contest. So big ups to you. I don't know if it is still there, but I did put up a code for HCO in the last show. So be on the lookout for that. All right. Let's make some declarative statements first. Statement number 1. All of this stuff isn't in the unit section. Statement number 2. There's some stuff in here that is clearly going to have to be sorted out by rules arbiters or deputies or somebody, because this is ridiculous. Number 3. Some of the tactics in here are layered upon other silly stuff within the set and then some other stuff outside the set. And I will be honest, I'm not going to catch everything. I am just going to bring up the stuff that I think is really important. Okay. So also I'm going off of the list that is on the preview thread, since again, all the figures aren't up in the unit section. Okay. Whew, that's a lot. All right, so let's get into it. First off, we're going to be looking at Agent X. The main reason we're going to be looking at Agent X is because of, first off, the trait is Agent X can't be the target of mind control. That is key, definitely, when you're looking at Brother Voodoo meta. Then I got half of Deadpool's healing factor tops. Agent X can use regeneration, and he has no... if he has no action tokens, he can use it as a free action. Again, it's more of a, please, dear Lord, let me recover my health, than it is something that you can depend on, but it is sort of nice. Coming in at 93 points, 6 range, also being able to see through stealth is really good. Running shot, energy explosion, sharpshooter. It's real great. So a solid opening piece. Not the greatest broken, strong, figure that we've gotten here in a while, but it is pretty solid. Next up is head pull, and I'm going to make the following statement. Head pull is broken. Not what you were expecting me to say. Yes. Head pull, or better yet, playing 2 head pulls, will allow you to get the power of a very strong special object without ever worrying about it being stolen or jacked or anything going on with it. And that's sort of scary. And let's get into why. Well, first off, you can attack Merc with the mouth to head pull, which is already wrong on so many levels, that you can add word bubbles to him, considering what the word bubbles can do. Next up is zombie virus. And this is the thing that I am very concerned about, is the whole zombie virus thing, because the way they're introducing it, it makes some ridiculous effects, and we'll get that once we get to the chases. Anyway, it says, when head pull damages a character that doesn't have the Z virus keyword, give that character a virus token if it has less than 5 virus tokens. Give head pull a free action and choose a character with the virus token. Modify its speed and range values by -1 for each virus token on it until your next turn. Okay, so pretty much you can give characters that don't have the Z virus, Okay, so you've given them the Z virus. Guess what? The way the Z virus procs is if you have a chase, let's say Electro, when that character dies, when you kill it, if Electro is on the field or Venom or whoever else the chases are on the field, guess what, homie? That character is now a zombie and friendly to you. Okay. So that's really ridiculous. Really. Anyway, next up is Hail Mary, boss. Adjacent friendly characters can use telekinesis, but only to make a ranged combat attack, as if Headpool were a light object. If they do, instead of being destroyed, place Headpool adjacent to the target character. So, here's the thing. You still have the fact of when Headpool damages a character that doesn't have the Z virus. Oh, guess what? Hail Mary plus this little thing could be interesting because we've never had a object with exploit weakness, and we've never had an object that doesn't affect like this. So what I'm going to say is that, hey, a rules arb needs to make a statement about what how this works, how the trait works with the special power on movement. Next up is Immortal Zombie Head that everyone wants. Headpool ignores other characters' poison and all but one damage that would be dealt to him. This power can't be countered or ignored. So this is sort of cool. If you're able to get him regeneration, then yay. You know, he's pretty much almost unkillable. He does have Steel Energy, which is sort of nice. And, to make things silly, you can give Headpool a hammer. Not saying it's the greatest thing, but it is possible. So just think about that. Yeah. Anyway, so next up is Dogpool. Really, just looking at his special power, Bark. What'd you find, boy? Timmy in the well again. Dogpool can use Perplex, but only to decrease a defense value. When he uses Perplex, he can use improved targeting, ignores hindering terrain, and characters can't use stealth this turn. So it's sort of nice that he's able to say, like, hey, guy, you can't be stealth. And that has its uses to track characters down. Definitely, if your team does not have stealth, bust-in capabilities. So it's just something to think about in the future. All right. Next up is what is it? Ultimatum Soldier, mainly for the fact that they're 35 points, and it has the special power on damage, which says opposing characters of 150 points or less within 3 squares can't use team abilities if those squares are within line of fire. Real simple team ability negation. Within sealed, it's not going to matter. Within constructed, this can be really, really awesome. Also, soldiers needed some cheap fodder guys that would allow them to bump up their keyword. So definitely check out Ultimatum Soldier. If I am correct, Ultimatum was the last Ultimates big story arc in which the United States was like getting destroyed. Let me rephrase that. The United States is always getting destroyed in Ultimates. The United States is broken up into all the different factions or whatever, I think. And you have like California as a faction. It's pretty much done by Hydra. Hydra breaks up the United States. And then Captain America like reunifies it, and the Ultimates reunify it. But I could be wrong. Anyway, next up is the Hand Ninja. And the Hand Ninja, I think, is super duper strong. And you might say, why? One Hand Ninja is dumb. Never play One Hand Ninja unless you have to. 2 Hand Ninjas are dumb. Don't do it unless you have to. 3 or more Hand Ninjas are scary. And here's why. There's always more ninjas. When Hand Ninja is adjacent to at least one friendly character with a hand keyword, Hand Ninjas can make a close combat attack as a free action. So what this really means is that they have a full move charge. Yes, homie, a full move charge. 9 movement, stealth, 10 attack with precision strike, in this special power. They also have the trait Return from Death when hand ninjas would be KO'd while adjacent to a friendly character with the hand keyword. Roll a d6. On a result of 5 through 6, hand ninja isn't KO'd, and after actions resolved is placed in your starting area on click 2 instead, which is Blades, Claws, Fangs. In charge. So I gotta say, there's a lot of silliness that can be, thrown down, because what you can do is attack, and then if you're adjacent to another hand ninja, attack again for free. Or fully move up one hand guy and then dogpile the ninjas on. I mean, this is pretty crazy. Okay, it's really crazy. You can add in an empower, and these guys get brutal. So this is something where I'm not going to say this is going to win you a Gen Con. This isn't something that's going to win you, a rock tournament. But this is something that in a local tournament will piss everyone off. I'm just going to be honest with you. Just do it right. You will piss everyone off. Okay, next up is, what is it? I think it's the Professor. Yeah, the Professor. Actually, let me go and do Weapon X Scientist, because that one's pretty good too. Weapon X Scientist, 40 points, Scientist keyword, special power, capture subjects. Weapon X Scientist can use telekinesis, but only place opposing characters or characters with the Weapon X keyword, which is, okay, whatever. It does make you focus on using TK to reposition people. That's good. Then you have We Can Always Find You. Weapon X Scientist can use Outwit. When he does, he may target characters that can use Battle Fury or have the Weapon X keyword regardless of the range and line of fire. This can be really good for your sealed. Okay, just going to be honest. Past that, not so much, but the idea is mainly that if there does become a figure in the game that does have Battle Fury, or hey, guess what? Sudasaro is getting you down a little bit too much on your opponent's force, then this figure might be able to give you some coolness. All right. Next up is the Professor. And the Professor is 34 points and 2 clicks. And that's the one thing I do notice about this set. There is a lot of shallow click figures, but they're dirt cheap. Yet I think game design is saying, we don't want to give us something for like 15 or 20 points. They want to be like 30 points is about as low as we want to get right now. And I don't blame them with keywords floating around. So the Professor has a Secret Mastermind. When adjacent to a friendly character, the Professor can't be targeted by opposing characters, which is pretty strong. That means that you can keep him you can keep him protected for a long while. You could even use him as a shield to an extent, which I don't think that's the intent. But you could use him as a shield. He is a prime, though, so take that into mind. Next thing is Mastermind on the Weapon X program. Mastermind of the Weapon X program. The Professor can use Empower and Outwit. Not as great when you really think about it with the Empower, but okay. And a range value of 8. Outwit with a range value of 8. When he does encounters a power on a character with a range value of 0, he may immediately mind control as a free action, targeting the character with the ranged combat attack regardless of range, and takes no damage for using mind control. In all honesty, they just need to redo mind control and just say you don't take feedback damage, because they're just giving everybody in special powers the ability to ignore feedback damage. So why is this good? There are a few melee characters with 0 range that can be really, really interesting and really, really strong to mind control, but you can't guarantee that to be on your opponent's team. 8 range Outwit is a little bit uncommon, so definitely something to think about. Next up, shout out to Colleen Wing, because I love Colleen Wing. She is a bad mamma jamma. And give her a charge hammer on her first click, and she will put in work. Work, girl, work. Oh, gosh. There we go. Anyway, moving on. Next up is Misty Knight. She's good too. Uh, definitely one of those situations in which, when I look at them, you can start to see like, okay, there's weaknesses here. I wish she was as strong as Colleen Wing, but she's not. Uh, anyway, but anyway, just being able to use close combat expert starting off isn't bad. Then the heroes for hire dispatcher, Misty Knight can use leadership when she does and succeeds. Friendly characters that share a keyword with her and begin that action adjacent to her can use sidestep. So regardless if you get leadership or not, you're able to get sidestep. So that's pretty good. It's not as offensive as I would like it to be, but it is pretty good. Definitely when you're looking at your heroes for hire and your, I would hate to say it like this, your police teams, definitely if you combine her with Gordon, because Gordon's free move plus sidestep could equal hyper deployment. Just saying. So just something to think about. Next up, that we're going to be looking at, let's see, is Humbug, and only for its special power is I can command insects with my mind. Well, if we're already friends, give Humbug a free action, choose an opposing character occupying hindering terrain within 6 squares and roll a d6. On the result of 4 through 6, choose 1, deal 1 penetrating damage to the character or counter 1 power that character possesses until your next turn. That is the main thing that I'm looking at, is just saying, hey, I don't have to really roll for damage for an attack. It's a 50-50 chance. So that's pretty cool too. Just also being able to say, hey, guess what? It doesn't matter that you're in stealth. Also, the thing to think about is if your team has a smoke cloud of any form, and he does get smoke cloud on click 2, you're able to use his power really easily. So something to think about, just, in your overall, team musings. All right. Next up is Weapon X, and the only reason I'm looking at Weapon X is that he has the detachable rocket hand. Give Weapon X a power action. When there are no rocket hand tokens on the map placed by him, place up to 2 rocket hand bystander tokens as if they're described on the card on the map within 5 squares in line of fire. For each of these tokens on the map, Weapon X modifies his attack value by -1. Now, you might be saying, okay, that sort of sucks, but the rocket hand has plasticity, 9 attack, poison, exploit, 1 damage, okay, and 18 defense. Now, it doesn't say anything that you can't do it again. It just says you can place up to 2, and it doesn't say like once per game. So if they are destroyed, there's 0 points, and just do it again. Now, could you give the rocket hands hammers? Yes, it would be sort of a waste, but you could. But the big thing for me is looking at it like this. If you feel that you're probably going to be in a bind, or there's some weird, restriction on you, like, I got affected by High Father or something like that, like Rocket Arm, bam, awesomeness right there. Anyway, going on to the special power, liquid metal weapons. Weapon X can use Blaze Claw's Fangs, Energy Explosion, and Penetrating Psychic Blast. Remember, Energy Explosion and Psychic Blast do stack. If he uses one or more of these at the end of your turn, deal him 1 unavoidable damage if he didn't hit any opposing characters this turn. That's sort of okay, but it's that part at the end sort of sucked. But all right, whatever. Anyway, moving on. I like Daredevil, just real quick, just because of what he does for the team base. That's it. Like, that's it. I mean, he gives the team base the ability to see through stealth, and that's all he's really good for, in my opinion. He also has Ally of Heroes at the beginning of the game. Choose Enhancement or Empower. Daredevil can use that power this game. All Heroes for Hire theme team. A Heroes for Hire theme team may include Daredevil and his Steel theme team, which is, to me, is dumb because you might as well just give him a Heroes for Hire keyword. You know what I mean? I guess it's just that they don't want him to be able to proc, for theme prop or something. I don't know. I don't know. Him with the hand ATA would be awesome. Or the Marvel Knights ATA to give him stealth, or any Avengers ATA. Really, this Daredevil has a lot to exploit, but his stats are okay. His stats are okay. Animus and Vamp, I just sort of say like, okay, cool, good to have you. Welcome to the party. That's about it. Next up is Blind Owl, and I think Blind Owl will probably be one of the largest changes that comes into HeroClix here, right up there with Copycat. And then let me get into why. Okay, first off, you have your trait. You have to stay in the Dead Hut. At the end of your turn, if Blind Owl is not in a starting area, deal her 1 damage. I thought Owl was a guy. Never mind. So she's only 2 clicks deep. So yeah, she's also 13 points in a spy and non-unique. Okay, I want that to sink in just a tad. That she's 13 points and non-unique. Okay. All right. So really think about that, of how bad this can turn out. Okay. That's there's problems. There's so many problems. Okay. So the next thing I want you to do is take a step forward and go to your nice little unit section. And I want you to start looking for a figure. And I want you to start looking at figures with spy. And I particularly want you to look at a figure named Agent 13. Yeah, Agent 13. And I want you to look at this one cool little power that she has. Espionage, sent to spy. If Agent 13 is part of a theme team, during your first turn, choose a keyword. Each opposing character with that keyword can't be given more than 1 free action. Hello, how you doing? Okay, so that right there makes Agency X and Spy really ridiculous. You might say, but Dark Logos, they all have to stay in the starting area or in a starting area. Yeah, if you have the means of, teleporting them across the map into another starting area, then you're good to go. But here's where we're starting to get silly. Old Booby Trap. Give Blind Owl a power action, and when she occupies a starting area, deal 1 penetrating damage to a character in that starting area, and place that character adjacent but outside the starting area. Okay. Doesn't say friendly, doesn't say opposing. Just says Blind Owl a power action when she does occupy the starting area, deal 1 penetrating damage to a character in that starting area. Okay. Now, why is this a big deal? Hello, characters like Agent 13 that need an activation token to get to their coolness. Fix that for you. So you have the ability to activate any number of characters for as many Blind Owls as you have. Okay, sinking in. Okay, cool. All right. Next up is Deadpool listens to me. Sometimes Blind Owl can use Perplex to target a character that hasn't already been targeted by Perplex this turn. She can use it to target a character in your starting area or target a character with Deadpool in its name anywhere on the map. Now, you can use it against opposing Deadpools. You can use it to perplex up characters near your starting area. I think the biggest thing that it becomes a bit absurd to me is that you can power up somebody really strong in your starting area with various effects, which I won't go into right now. And then, send them out there. And if like, oh, shoot, I need to bring them back. And you bring them back, and it's like, all right, I need to get them on this next click. You can just use blind owl to pretty much click manipulate. For those people that like using Victoria Hand, she is stupid. She is stupid. Okay. Because going back to like the old booby trap, her trait kicks off, not a trait, she's able to move characters and it's a placement, and you're still able to act after being placed. So you can like have Victoria Hand adjacent to Blind Owl, move Victoria Hand is next to Blind Owl or to the second Blind Owl or whatever. Or let me rephrase that. Blind Owl uses old booby trap on Victoria Hand, moves her outside the starting area. Victoria Hand moves to the second Blind Owl. The second Blind Owl uses the booby trap, okay, and does that, okay. So now you've taken 2. Next turn, move, taken 3, okay. So in 2 turns, you have done 3 damage to Victoria Hand. And your opponent is just like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden, you have a traitor or not. And here's your sign. So, I know you're going to say, well, Victoria Hand is unique and blah. Yeah, I understand. But I'm saying is there's a lot of dial manipulation that you can do with this character, and she is not unique, and Spy is your uncle because you're able to just pad your team with her. Again, she's not unique. Next up is Deadpool. And I'm only bringing this up just for the fact of ridiculous regeneration. Whenever Deadpool would be dealt damage from an attack, roll a d6 on a result of 1. He takes that damage plus 1 on a result of 2 through 3. He takes the normal amount of damage on a result of 4. He takes 1 damage on the result. 4 through 5. He takes 1 damage on a result of 6. He heals 1 damage. This power can't be countered or ignored, but the thing is, it can be probbed. So that's the cool part. But, other than that, I don't really think he's that good. I think he would be interesting at 90 points. He's not worth losing all his keywords over. So, that's the best thing I could tell you. Moving on. Evil Deadpool is interesting. At 100 points and him being a prime, it's somewhat hard to justify him with him being a prime. Him being a monster, though, is more than justifiable for a monster team. For just being able to get those Merc with the mouth bubbles on him, the backwards arm, and the weird regeneration from leftovers, that can be silly. Just add it all up. It's ridiculous. So... Also, definitely weird regeneration from leftovers is Evil Deadpool can use regeneration. Choose an opponent to roll another d6. If the opponent's roll is higher than your d6 roll, add the 2 results together and subtract 2. Evil Deadpool is healed of damage equal to this amount instead. Each time Evil Deadpool would be healed past his starting click. In this way, modify his combat values by +1 for the rest of the game, even if this power is lost. That's the part that's ridiculous, because you can just keep stacking that. And if you're able to use pretty much like the adamantium scientist from the gravity feed, and you automatically cut off his first click. And I know that sounds like blasphemy, but bear in mind, it makes it way easier for that second part of the ability to proc. So, again, maybe not the best of things, but just saying you have imperv, I mean, not imperv, invuln, with super senses. And if you get to that charge, 18 defense click, you would have charge, 13 attack, 19 defense, 5 damage, blades. But the blades is sort of dumb. Like, I hate it when they give you blades and they also give you like a super high damage. So, but oh well, this is just something to think about. Also, you would have 7 range. All right, next up is Weasel. Okay. Next up is Weasel. All right, Weasel is a very interesting character. First off, he's 27 points. Scientist, which is like, gosh, scientists did not need a 25-point guy. Just really didn't. Anyway, he has the first of his special powers. I thought I fixed that. Give Weasel a free action and choose a friendly character within 4 squares in line of fire, or a friendly character with Deadpool in its name anywhere on the map. This turn, each time the chosen character makes an attack roll for a ranged combat attack and misses by 1, you may re-roll that attack roll unless it's a critical miss. So it's sort of nice that if you get close, you have some insurance. Then he has the Tech Guru to the Underworld. Weasel can use enhancement, and once per turn, when he does, he may also modify the attacking character's attack and range values by +1. So he can pick one character per turn to give them +1 attack, +1 range, and technically +1 damage. That's a lot of goodness, just in one little package there. I think, in all honesty, maybe a lot of people may underestimate, just how good that ability is. So definitely, something to look out for. And let's see here. Okay, here we go. So moving on down, I know some people might say like, oh, Outlaw is awesome, but she's okay. Kidpool is moderate. He has some things that could be great, but I don't think he's quite there yet. Black Cat is just a standard prop piece, and I don't really want to go in. I don't really like number 1. Yeah, so Flag Smasher could be interesting, and I'll go into Flag Smasher. We shall be one people, and I shall lead. Flag Smasher can use leadership. When he doesn't succeed, choose a copyable Marvel team ability. Friendly characters with a lower point value can use that ability until your next turn. So if you roll a 5 or a 6, it's like, yay, I can use a copyable Marvel team ability. So I hope they limit that to to normal printed TAs and not ATAs, but who knows. Then the special power on movement, you get it on your 2nd, 3rd, and 5th and 6th click, is the nations of the world shall crumble and be one. Opposing characters that possesses or can use team abilities modify their attack and defense values by -1 unless already modified by this effect. Now, here's the big deal. The fact that you can pretty much lower a defense just for existing is really strong. And the fact that on like a ruler team with Darkseid will say you are just merely a pawn of Darkseid. But beyond that, you would be able to get a lot of advantages. Out of that. Definitely if you're rolling with the hammers or even with the power plant. So that's just something I would say is maybe keep in your back pocket when you're looking for a fun game to just jack with people. Just like push him to click 2 and be like, yeah, you see that power there? Yeah, that's what's up. Higher point games, like maybe 800 and higher, he will be freaking crazy and everyone will be coming after him. So definitely think about that. All right. Next up is Agent Zero. He has 7 range, 112 points, which is a little steep, but he has Soldier, Spy, and Weapon X keyword, running shot, 10 attack, 17 defense, and outwit. But he has starts off with kinetic absorption. Agent Zero can use toughness. If Agent Zero would take more than 2 damage from a single attack, he takes 2 damage instead, which is pretty good. So they have to outwit that for him not to, for him to take more damage. Then he has special damage power. Agent Zero can use Force Blast. When Agent Zero has no action tokens, he can use it as a free action, which also can be really good for placement. It would allow you to knock someone back, and then when you do a ranged attack, to use it again in the premise of your ranged combat attack. So that's pretty cool. His attack power, which he gets on his last 3 clicks, which is sort of sad, is anti-healing factor. Agent Zero can use poison. If an adjacent opposing character would be healed, instead they are dealt 1 unavoidable damage. Which is it's sort of weird, but it only works against if, like, hey, you deal with Wolverine or whatever. So I do think that this is fun. Definitely if somebody is playing a little bit too much Wolverine at your venue, or if you're seeing a lot of region roles for people, to be using those. So definitely check that out. Moving on down. Lady Bullseye is interesting, but I don't think she's really going to be a core of any team anytime soon. Yeah, I don't really think so. Paladin is really good for the points. 6 range, the sidestep, the ranged combat expert. He has the trait, I'm always for hire, give a friendly character that possesses a copyable team ability, a power action. Paladin can use that team ability until this ability is used again. So you can do that on like turn 1 if you feel comfortable doing that. When Paladin isn't on his starting click, opposing characters can be given a power action to activate this effect. If they do, Paladin is healed 1 damage. So you have a lot of flexibility to use with that. Also, the fact that if you put him on a Thunderbolts team, there's a lot of potential there for other team abilities for him to abuse on top of that. So just something to think about. Moving on down. Next up is Elektra. At 115 points, having Thunderbolts in hand, keywords are really important. Heroes for hire as well. With the heroes for hire, pretty much it's guaranteed she's going to get into position to just maul you. So you have the resurrection ceremony. Once per game, when Elektra would be KO'd, you may give any number of friendly characters with the hand keyword an action token. If you do, place her in her starting area on click number 8 and then heal her of damage equal to the number of action tokens given. So this is what the zombies should have, but they don't. They need to have something that happens once per game, but they don't. So, oh well. So if you're playing her on a hand team, it's really good, but you're playing her on a Heroes for Hire team with Colleen Wing and Misty Knight, she's going to come back pretty reasonable. So think about that. The next thing is she starts off with Envoy, Envy of All Assassins. She can use Charge, Flurry, and Stealth with a 12 attack and 3 damage. That's pretty good. On her second click, it has Master of All Assassins. She can use Blaze Claw's Fangs, Incapacitate, and Precision Strike. So yeah, like her second click is monstrous. And then on click 3, not on click 3, then later on she gets Deadliest of All Assassins. Elektra can use Close Combat Expert, Exploit Weakness, and Range Combat Expert. Which I don't feel it is as great as it may appear to be. The exploit weakness I can understand. Range combat expert, I really don't like that. I really think that you could have just forfeited range combat expert for a close combat expert, or gave up close combat expert to have range combat expert, and then just keep the exploit weakness, because you can't stack close combat expert and exploit weakness. So yeah, I it's not a bad dial. Then keep on going down. Punisher is weird. I would say look at him, but there's a lot of stat weirdness there that you can do, but with the guilty must be punished, so I'll just leave it at that. Red Hulk, ooh, it sort of hits me at this weird point where I don't know what the circle of 4 is. Maybe someone can put in the comments below what the circle of 4 is, so I can find out about that, because I am completely unaware. Anyway, he starts off with charge, super strength, 18 defense, and 4 damage with a special power, soldier on. Red Hulk can use leadership, which is okay. When he succeeds, each friendly character that shares a keyword with him and is a lower point value can use willpower this turn. Now, this can be really good if you're making him the main focal point of your team, but 9 times out of 10 he's not. So I feel a little bit questionable with this. Next is his movement power. I'll assassinate Cyclops if you won't. Red Hulk can use running shot, stealth, improved targeting, ignores enemy terrain, and a range value of 6. This isn't as good as some people might think it is, just for the pure fact of his attack values sort of suck. His damage value is great, but his attack values suck. So I would feel that he would just have been better served with like charge into permanent sidestep, but that's just my opinion. Next up is Venom. And Venom, he's on here because he's Venom, I'm not going to lie, and he's a monster. And he has infiltrate. Venom can use plasticity, running shot, and stealth. Then he also has run, grab, and web. When Venom hits a single opposing character, roll a d6 that can't be re-rolled. On a 4 through 6, that character can't make an attack during its next turn. This is a lot of control, and you get this power on click 2. So when you combine the infiltrate and neutralize with the run and grab and web, it would allow you to put a serious lockdown on a character. And so if you're using the Knowles hammer to get willpower, or getting willpower some other way, you're able to pretty much lock down a character for 2 turns. So that's pretty big. Then you have let the monster loose. When Venom attacks an opposing character, that character can't use super senses once per game. Give Venom a free action, and when he can use this power, he can use Battle Fury and modifies all his combat values by +2. So it sets you up for one major punch, but the way the meta is going right now, this might be questionable. But when you first get it, you have the potential to do 5 damage with an 11 attack. The issue is you surviving to get to that point. So that, yeah, 11 attack, 5 damage isn't bad. So anyway, now I will say with Mole Man and stuff that this could actually be interesting, because you could use once per game effects multiple times per Mole Man. So yeah. All right. Next up is I don't really. Mercy is interesting for her. Mercy is helping the dying along their path, but other than that, she's way too expensive for what she does. Then there's Bullseye, who makes me question if WizKids is really committed to reining in range. Because at 8 range, 3 targets, having precision strike, and then eventually going into energy explosion, it makes me question a whole lot. So, yeah, that's definitely something to think about. It's a really strong piece. Yeah, and he also can like shoot through everything. So, keep going. Now let's enter into Copycat number 38, and this is where I'm concerned for the future of the game when it comes to elements of control. Uh, let's go through this step by step, and I'll explain to you why I'm sort of frustrated and a little bit pissed. First is infiltrate my enemies before placing characters in your starting area. You may choose an opposing character that is 100 points or less. Copycat is 90. Copycat is 90, okay? Just keep that in mind. That is 100 points or less. Copycat becomes friendly to that character's force, and that character becomes friendly to your force. Okay, now when you say friendly, what it means is that you actually figure swap. You are part of an exchange program with heroclix, and Copycat is your exchange student that if your opponent plays her, then you will be housing and feeding and driving to school Copycat. So yeah, that sucks. Then there is any game effects assigned to each of them is now assigned to the other. So if you had the utility belt assigned to your super awesome Cyclops, now it is assigned to Copycat. When Copycat fails a roll for shape change or uses regeneration, after actions resolve, this character ends any game effects assigned to each of them is now assigned to the other. Now, here's where it gets real interesting, because, like, let's say, by chance, I made Copycat the Herald of Galactus. Just saying, hypothetically. What would end up happening? Well, actually, no, Herald of Galactus wouldn't count. That's a bad example. Let's just say I have, like, perplexed up my Copycat's defense or whatever. And I get attacked, shape change fails. Okay, that's it. The little pack thing breaks. And now Copycat is friendly to my opponent, which is sort of weird because that would make their attack illegal. Because anyway, the pact is over. Anyway, and then I'm stuck in a weird position because now the Copycat is probably midfield, and my character that I originally had on my force is probably deep within enemy territory and is probably not coming out. That is bad. That is really, really bad. Definitely when you look at situations like, hey, here's your split lip, here's your Lydia Mallor. Well, Lydia Mallor, I take that one back. Lydia Mallor is sort of ridiculous. But you can sort of see where I'm going from here. The other elements, some people have said, like, hey, I just assigned the Book of the Skull, drop the hammer on Copycat, roll for regen, boom, this whole thing is broken. That is true. But if what you're doing is that you're putting yourself in a position that whoever she swapped with now has to hold on to your Angriest hammer. And if it's somebody like Split Lip, do you really want Split Lip to have the Angriest hammer on the other side of the map? So that's another sort of big deal, is that if Copycat takes a 90-point figure and you do any shenanigan at the beginning of the game to force her to regen or by chance roll for shape change, okay, then automatically you have put yourself in to an extent minorly in harm's way because of Copycat, and then you've put your main character that you've tried to rescue in grave danger from the opponent's team. Also, there's no requirement within the character's wording that your opponent has to target freaking Copycat. And so where it becomes frustrating is regeneration and shape change are both optional. And you can't use regeneration until you get to the end of your dial, and you have all this willpower that you have to go through. And so, the only way really to try to power through the dial to get Copycat off your team is to play like two blind owls. Like two blind owls would pretty much do it. And that's 26 points that you would have to invest into just dealing with Copycat. And I'm just saying that's out of the set. Okay. Anyway, just hitting that trait, Metamorph, the second trait, Metamorph, Copycat can use Shape Change, give Copycat a free action, and choose a standard power. And adjacent friendly character or the character she exchanged with can use, Copycat can use that power until your next turn. This is where it sort of gets interesting because you can say like, hey, I got Perplex. Hey, I got Outwit. Hey, I got Probability Control. They stole my character and I was really dependent on using, TK. Okay, I can still use TK. So I'm not completely screwed there. But if you have a character like Tellus, where, my opponent has taken my Tellus from my team, then my team doesn't work. So that I really, really have a problem with. You create things and you just say, hey, my team doesn't work. I can take out your... Anyway, I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to stop being bitter and I'm going to just move on. Next up is Constrictor, and this is just mainly for the two coils. Is when Constrictor targets two characters with ranged combat attack, instead of dividing the damage between them, he may deal his printed damage value to both hit characters. I think that's awesome. I think that's really good. So add some, more range to Constrictor and by some means, and then you got something. So yeah, definitely like that. Okay. Where is it? I think, okay, here we go. GW Bridge. He has a shield team ability, 6 range, 68 points. Main thing I like about him is you have 6-pack recruiting. When you build your force of GW Bridge and exactly 4 other characters share a keyword, you may choose one friendly character with a point value of 150 points or less, and that character has the shared keyword. So you can pretty much like welcome to the Legion to an extent. And you have a bunch of cool keywords, okay? Like you have shield, you have soldier, 6-pack is okay, weapon X is okay. Okay. But mainly when you think about that you're able to, for reasonable points, do welcome to shield. And it's like, here's your friends, like Agent 13 and Brother Voodoo. So I'm just saying it's like that's pretty good. Next up is Nam, a Merc, Shield, done it all. Give GW Bridge a free action and choose Close Combat Expert or Range Combat Expert. GW Bridge can use the chosen power this turn. So that's pretty cool. Then Field Tactician, GW Bridge can use Outwit. When he does, he may use it to target any number of characters within range and line of fire that can use the same team ability. So, unfortunately, you're sort of limited to shield. But if it says use but not possess, so you have wild cards, you have potential there. So definitely think about that. Or if you have Cypher, Cypher makes everything wonderful. Next up is Grasshopper, and I think Grasshopper might be the future of Tellus teams, but Tellus teams may be dead just because of Copycat. Anyway, Grasshopper, he says, but I'm the secret brother of the secret crush of the first Grasshopper. When Grasshopper is KO'd, if no other friendly characters have been KO'd after action resolve, you may place him on the map in your starting area on click 1. So it's nice to have him come back. And then maximum jump, give Grasshopper a double power action, remove him from the map. At the beginning of your next turn, place him anywhere on the map. So the thing that's sort of cool is this. For what you were paying for 2 Astro Doctor Stranges, you're paying for one grasshopper, and then you're having him double power action, and then you're sort of scooting up a little bit, and then when he lands where you want him to be, and then you just start shooting and doing everything you can through him. So overall, he's not bad for Tellus teams. Anything else than that, and it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Black Talon, yay. Black History team. But Black Tom Cassidy is mainly good to play with Juggernaut, and that's just about it. So I'll leave that. Next up is Genesis, and I think Genesis is really good. Really, really good. Okay, so Genesis is 114 points, which is reasonable. Genesis stats is not that great, but Mr. Tolliver, employer of villain special powers, which you start off with, is Genesis can use enhancement and stealth. When an adjacent friendly character KOs an opposing character with an attack, after actions resolve, remove one action token from that friendly character and all action tokens from Genesis. Think about this now, people. You have a Colossal or a team base that has a massive amount of damage, or a duo that's able to attack twice, and you've pretty much just attacked for free if you kill something. That's what Mr. Tolliver does, okay? Then you become Apocalypse's greatest, Herald Horseman. Give Genesis a free action and choose another friendly character within range and line of fire. Until your next turn, that character has the Horseman of Apocalypse keyword. Modify all its combat values by +1, unless already modified by this effect. Hey, homie, do you have a utility belt? Not on a +1 stats? Well, you +1 stats this turn. Hey, homie, do you have that Book of the Skull with a hammer on you right now? Yep. Now you're capped attack and +1 damage. So there's a lot of goodness there. Yes, you can't stack Mr. Tolliver, and you'll become Apocalypse greatest horseman. But gosh, dog, it's really nice. I mean, with the Mr. Tolliver and Prob up front, and I'm sorry, that's just really good support. Is 114 points feel a little bit high? Yeah, I can see that, but still, like, gosh, dog, that's awesome. All right. I'm going to sort of compact Shang-Chi and Cat together. Cat's broken. Cat's way broken, because for 81 points, he just spits on you your opponent doing attacks with a resource. He just does. And he's not super deep, but he's deep enough where most cases he'll definitely have to take 2 attacks in most cases. Okay. But mainly Cat's trait, replaced with a broken forgery. When opposing character with a relic resource assigned to them makes an attack, the player rolls a d6 that can't be modified after action resolved. On a result of 1 through 2, the player chooses 1, removing the assigned relic from the game, or remove an item attached to that resource from the game. Now, here's the thing. You can say it's a 1 in 3 chance. Yes, that is true. And it can't be re-rolled. That is true. But when you think about all the number of attacks that go off in a game, then you have to be honest with yourself. If that happens twice, how many, like on a Phoenix Force, like that just screws a Phoenix Force player. Like they just can't access it. For the Infinity Gauntlet, there can be some problems. Utility Belt is really the one that's hurt the least. Power Plant, they're hurt the most if that happens, because you're using either the rings to burn, or you're using the rings to power up your figure. So Cat accelerates the rate in which your rings are burned. So that's really the only reason I'm looking at him. His stats and his attack values are good. Shang-Chi is pretty good because his counter block, the counter block says each time an opposing character targets and misses Shang-Chi with an attack, put a counter token on this card. Give Shang-Chi a free action and remove all counter tokens to make that many combat attacks with a lock damage value of 2. At the end of your turn, remove all counter tokens. Now, it's the fact that his special power gives him precision strike that you can start to see, like, yeah, this is stupid. Because you can just be like, oh, well, I've been missed 3 times, and now sidestep, counterattack, 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 counterattack. And yeah, you just took that, and you're dead. Like, when you look at it like that, it's really ridiculous. So 90 points, Heroes for Hire, Martial Artist, Marvel Knights, Spy. Like, spies are getting pimped out. Like, I'm just telling you. Okay, next up is another broken character. Blink. Blink is... trying to gather myself to use proper verbiage without vulgarity. Blink makes a lot of things about the spatial manipulation that was nerfed from Wolverine, the X-Men, and WizKid's, dedication to resolving that makes me really want to question that, and makes me not really trust WizKids when they tell me something. Definitely with Blink, because Blink. Let's read the traits and the powers, and we'll go from there. All right, Blink and You'll Miss Me. Give Blink a power action. When she has no action tokens, place her into any square within 8 squares and make a close combat attack. If she hits, you may return her to the square she occupied when the action began. It's not really hard when you have a utility belt. Not really hard when you burn a ring. Not really hard when you have +2 attack due to the Book of the Skull. It's not real hard for her to return back to her square. Is the possibility of that happening existing? Yes, it is. But when you start looking at the fact that she has 3 damage, okay, and you're able to possibly get blades, and on your next click, it's silly, and you add in leadership and all that. But that's just the trait, so it can happen all dial. Okay, and then we're going to go into group teleport. Blink can use flurry, phasing teleport, and the carry ability. She doesn't modify her speed value when using the carry ability, and may carry up to 3 characters that share a keyword with her regardless of their combat symbols. Now, the thing that I'm glad is that Blink does not have Age of Apocalypse. Blink has Age of Apocalypse, Exiles, Generation X, New Mutants, and X-Men. I'm glad that she has those keywords and no generics. What I'm not glad is that she can, team up real easily with the New Mutants team base. Let's say you can pop off, Sunspot. Blink hits somebody with, Sunspot in tow. Because again, no, I take that back. You can't, because that's a place. You can't carry people with place. I take that back. I apologize. But she can phase up, carry Sunspot in tow, and then just be like, hey, guess what, homie? The following turn, Sunspot's going to come out and just like shoot you really good. And I can roll leadership to take tokens off Sunspot. Don't even have to pulse wave. I'm just taking tokens off Sunspot. Then also Blink can use combat reflexes and super senses, which means that since she is a 0 range and she does make that melee hit, she misses that melee hit, she's going to be really hard to hit, since she will have a 19 defense and super senses at close combat. So that's the CUR of the set. we're going to look at rares here. And what I'm going to do is, like normal, I'm going to break it up and I'm going to look at the super rares and the chases in part 2. So thanks for listening. If you're not going to listen to part 2, if you already listened to part 2, thank you for coming back and listening to part 1. Yeah, you can sort of tell my frustrations. And I'll go into some lessons learned in part 2. So if you don't have time to listen to part 2, you can hit me up on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space and told me breaking the fourth wall in reality is just having a conversation. You can follow all my weird shenanigans on Twitter and find out when a new show is up. Feel free to hit subscribe. It actually helps more than I thought it does. If you are a newer listener / watcher / watching paint dry, thank you for watching paint dry while listening to my show. Next up, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it awesome, keep it interesting, baby. You know how we roll. Tell me your thoughts about Deadpool. What in the set makes you wonder if WizKids is on crack? And what parts of the set make you really think like, I can build some broken stuff out of this. So feel free to hit me up on that, about that. And last but not least, you can check out the blog, startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. I will say, by the time this goes up, I will have my buys for Deadpool on the blog. So there is a reason to go to the blog. Also, you can donate to the show on the blog and help write a show or give direct feedback. And I can, cater a show towards you. And all money goes towards, just the operational cost of the show and giving away cool prizes when I can. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.